What's up, future shred lords? Welcome back. Death to the fingers. I've been avoiding this question for quite some time, but it's time to get her done. The wheels turn slow, but they do turn around here. So we're going to talk about the top 10 instructional videos that I would recommend. You know, good times. And help start off the new year kind of situation with giving you guys an opportunity to strike off on your own, if you will, and sort of absorb more content, more sort of instruction and tutelage on how to play the guitar from the very best in the game. Plus, I find that these videos are videos you can keep coming back to time and time again over the span of years and pick up new information. We cover basically everything. So there's that. But to start off, I want to talk about some more modern ones, the sort of runner-ups, if you will, to the all-time classics. And that would be basically True Fire Guitar, which is, these are on the internet, of course. Links for everything here are in the description below, including all of these REH videos that you can watch for free on YouTube. Unheard of in my day. I'm just like, are you kidding me, man? We would have died and gone to heaven if we had access to this kind of stuff back in each one of those videotapes was about $100. So yeah, and you had to go to the music store to get them too. Good times. So anyways, all the links are in the description below for the ones that are available. And if you're not seeing it there, then you'll have to go get it. So yeah, definitely True Fire Guitar. That's more of like the older style thinking. JTC Guitar is another excellent resource. It's got more of a modern sort of flair to it with the shred fusion stuff. So lots of great titles on there. You've got Tom Quayle and Rick Graham, both amazing for all kinds of various reasons and lots of useful courses there to sort of dive into. And of course, there's one more resource. I've talked about it before, which is classicaltab.org, which is classtab.org. Again, link in the description, where you can go download like essentially hundreds, if not thousands, of classical pieces all tabbed out for you, which even if you don't know that much about music or music theory or anything else, I'm pretty sure you can listen to the song on the YouTubes and then basically mimic it by following the tabs kind of situation, which is going to be very instrumental in sort of getting you to the next level. Don't skip over the classical thing. You'll regret it. Trust me. You learn a lot of stuff about music by doing that that you would never otherwise learn in a sort of like more sort of modern context, unless you were going to school and stuff, where that is basically a throwback of the classical stuff. I know the wheel turns round and round and round. So let's get into this list here first. And of course, these are all 10s. They're in no particular order. It doesn't go from best to worst. These are all 10 out of 10 videos, all of them. And the first one here is Vinnie Moore. It's speed, accuracy, and articulation. He does an excellent section on modes. There's a ton of alternate picking exercises on here, on one string, on multiple strings and stuff like that. And a ton of other information that is just perfect for the budding technical guitar player. This is one of the most useful videos because he basically breaks down a lot of the more straightforward techniques to get very fast on the guitar with alternate picking. I can't remember if he does sweeps and stuff like that on there or not. We'll get into more of the sweeping stuff in a bit. But in terms of just like a really good video that explains the basics of like, you know, the basic mechanics of shred guitar, you can't really ask for a better video than this one. So Vinnie Moore, that's why it's on the list. Next is Greg Howe. It's Hot Licks, I believe, or Hot Rock Licks. I'll try that again. Hot Rock Licks. Wow, I can't even get this stuff out. This is a phenomenal video. There's string skipping, arpeggio ideas, there's contour tapping, there is 4 octave scales, there's just so much stuff going on here. You cannot go wrong. And of course, Greg Howe, one of the all-time most amazing guitar players on the face of the earth. If you've ever listened to his Hyper Acuity album, you'll be like, wow, oh my God, that's almost inhuman. Even by today's standards, it is absolutely terrifying. So this Hot Rock Licks, I almost messed it up again, but probably did, is very, very useful in terms of giving you a good foundational sort of overview of his playing style and how you can start implementing these ideas into your own playing, which is, just, when you want to sort of throw a dash of the Greg Howe in there, now you have this tool, these videos and stuff, they give you the essence, if you will, like you're a Skeksis or something like that, just draining the poor Gelfling or whatever it is, of their essence. You're taking it and imbibing that a little bit, which means that you get a little bit of the Vinnie Moore magic. You get a little more of the Greg Howe magic, right? So those two right there are incredibly useful here. We'll scroll down on the list. Steve Morse, Power Lines. Again, this gets into like country, fusion, chicken picking stuff, weird, strange groupings. I'm pretty sure it's on this one here, although I don't know if you could see it on the net because I didn't watch all the videos. But he has a really killer explanation of his live rig, which is definitely worth checking out, where he talks about the sort of dry wet configuration where he has just his guitar sound, and then he has a whole nother amp with a blend pedal, if you will, like a volume / blending pedal where he can depress it and then bring in effects on top of that. So it's a pretty cool little arrangement, and definitely could be useful. Remember, this is one of the top touring musicians of the world. I'm pretty sure he's learned a few things, and so you can probably take something away from that. But just the video itself in terms of guitar information is invaluable. There's lots of great stuff going on there. Plus, he does a pretty blistering rendition at the beginning. I think it's called Too Many Notes. I mean, I'm not really sure, but it's wow. And again, remember, there's none of this Instagram sort of fakery and stuff like that. These are people plugged into just amps that they just turn the volume up with very little sort of on the front end and just tear it up. Listen to the Vinnie Moore one. Like, honestly, that's like a single 12 with like nothing. Just, I guess they turn the gain up to 10 or whatever it is, but there's no frills about it, and his playing is basically perfect. That's the most astonishing part about it, which is par for the course for the Vinnie Moore stuff. If you've listened to his early stuff in the shred days with Mind's Eye and Time Odyssey and stuff, you're not going to find a more perfect and sort of in terms of execution of these incredibly challenging sort of alternate picking and swept arpeggio lines than Vinnie Moore. I mean, if you're looking for some of the more adventuresome stuff, it's Meltdown, but those two early albums, you're just like, that's a human being? It's crazy, man. It's and you don't really appreciate it. At the time, I hated them because I'm like, this is not nearly heavy enough for me. And it wasn't until years later, I'm like, remember those old Vinnie Moore ones? And I started listening to them and my jaw just dropped on the ground. And I'm just like, I'm such an idiot. To be like, oh, it's not heavy enough for me. Oh yeah, fail kind of situation. So yeah, I know I'm getting off topic here, but Vinnie Moore is an absolute beast of a guitar player, just beastly, like the shred machine. But he has incredible feel and again, pinpoint precision. If you want to learn accuracy and technique and stuff, you won't find a better teacher than that for sure. So that's the Steve Morse stuff there. Again, it's basically more shred, of course, but now with more country sensibilities and stuff. And of course, a little bit of insight. Remember, these videos are a little bit more than just learn this lick or whatever else it is. That's part of it too, of course. And there are tabs everywhere on the internet. All you have to do is do some simple Googlage, right? And you will find the tabs for any one of these videos. They've all been basically transcribed at this point. Just go download them. But, yeah, the Steve Moore stuff, they talk about their philosophy about music, and all the other guys do too, of course, which is very important because you get a certain perspective about how they think about it. And that actually helps in a lot of ways, a lot more than just learning this canned lick. Because now they're literally giving you the keys to the kingdom to be like, this is how I came up with this idea in the first place. Or this is how I kind of see about stringing a bunch of ideas together. And then what you're supposed to do is be like, yeah, I should try thinking about stringing my ideas together like that too. And then try to do something Steve Morse Moore-esque, right? Not just the hot licks lick itself, but this, take that and whatever, use your alchemical powers and sort of transmute it into what that would sound like if you were spitting it out on your instruments, right? Next here, this is a double feature. Again, this is for the ultra shred heads, if you want, is the Shawn Lane stuff, which looks like power solos and power licks. If you don't know who Shawn Lane is, he's probably the most terrifying guitar player on the face of the earth. Like, his licks are just, they're so ridiculous that no one's even tried to basically copy him, because you can't. He's just too fast, and his mind is just like in a whole nother place. And so if you want to sort of get into the mindset of like a Shawn Lane kind of situation, there's tons of information here on weird outside scales, whole tone scales and stuff like that. Amazing sort of sequences where he shows you how to do these wide interval sequences that can be absolutely insane. You listen to him doing it, it sounds like a video game, right? This is way before the Dragon Force stuff or whatever else. He was actually doing it with no tricks and no studio magic. Just here you go. Watch this video. Excuse me. So there's decades worth of instruction here just to be able to go through the basic stuff. But again, try to think about watching these videos, not only to just pick some stuff up, maybe a lick or two to be like, yeah, I think I want to work on that over the next year kind of situation, but really listen to what they have to say about how they came up with the solos and how they write music and how they approach music in general. And you'd be surprised at how much more relatable that information is in general to just you developing as a musician. Think of this as like your teacher telling you something. You're like, remember back when I was in the 5th grade, the teacher said, yeah, don't step on a rake, and then you did it and you got smashed in the face kind of situation. You're like, I learned my lesson that day, right? Like exactly the same situation here, right? So take advantage of these people's massive knowledge base, like absolutely gargantuan. And to think that, again, it's being given away for free and stuff like that, it's just, that's a resource that should never go unmined, if you will. Right? Next on the list, of course, has to be there, John Petrucci's Rock Discipline. This is what I would say is like again, it's kind of like the Vinnie Moore one, where this is Introduction to Shred 101. You've got exercises in here to build up dexterity and stamina. You've got scale systems John was playing. I'm pretty sure it's the stuff from when they were doing the live in Japan. It's a great video. It should be in every Metalhead's collection if you're doing the guitar thing right. There's just lots of information here, and it's more, geared towards someone who's just kind of like getting into it. Are you going to play it at John Petrucci speed? Probably not. But the thing is if you ever want to be able to play lines, okay, like play the guitar like that, then you need to develop these basic skills. And John does an amazing job of basically presenting that stuff, right? And remember, you're supposed to take this stuff and then use it to your advantage and then sort of, again, internalize it and then spit it back out in your own way. So you don't sound like a John Petrucci clone. You sound like a guy that was influenced by John Petrucci. Makes sense? Van Halen doesn't sound like anybody but Van Halen. But he's still a collection of influences that basically made him want to play the guitar in the first place. Same thing with Randy Rhoads, and you hear this across the entire spectrum. Jeff Beck. They're all this ridiculous, crazy, top-notch guitar players and musicians and artists and stuff like that, but they're far, 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 far better than the people that came before them, but they were still influenced by them. See what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. A lot of what we're doing here is essentially understanding this basic principle that it's not just the licks themselves, it's the hidden information. There was a time when I was sitting here playing classical guitar. I was watching Conan the Barbarian from 1982. And there's a scene after Conan gets caught essentially trying to infiltrate the Mountain of Power. He gets caught by Thulsa Doom's henchmen and eventually he gets brought before him and they're beating him up and stuff like that. They get talking about the Riddle of Steel. And Thulsa Doom looks right at him. He goes, He's like, you want to know what the riddle is? He's like, what is steel compared to the flesh that wields it? And after he said that, even though I've watched this movie 20 times or 100 times or whatever it is, I stopped dead in my tracks. And that really resonated with me in that one moment. And it's true. The mind controls the fingers. So the speed of the mind is going to be the thing, the controlling factor to how fast your fingers can react, how well you can pick, how well you can fret chords and scales and arpeggios, how well you can remember these things, how fast you can connect them together in an improvisation run. It's the mind. It's an extension, right? The sword, the guitar itself, these lessons and all the rest of that stuff, they're kind of inconsequential unless your mind is prepared to actually accept and be influenced by it. And then you take these basic principles and practices and put them into play for your own sake, right? So that's why it's important to listen to what they have to say about music in general rather than just focus in on this one particular exercise. If you're doing the spider still and you're having no problem playing 3 notes per string, well, you're just kind of wasting time there. You don't need that exercise anymore. It's time to graduate to doing other scale systems. But I get it. There's this usually a resistance to be like, well, I want to learn something new because that's hard. Whatever, get her done. Right? So think of it that way. Next on the list here, oh man, John McLaughlin. This is the way I do it. Listen, this is a monster size guitar clinic, if you will. Basically, it starts off pretty straightforward and stuff like this, but I'm telling you, by the end, you're just like, your head is spinning. This one particularly is not for the weak. This is for people that are absolutely obsessed with music. You're ready to test yourself in every way, shape, and form with respect to, your theoretical knowledge, your music theory, your ability to play, all of it, because John will put you through the paces on all levels. And there's a certain expectation of excellence when you watch this video, and it becomes apparent by about the third or fourth episode, because they're so like, they've already transcended 99% of the stuff you're going to learn on the internet right now. And you're only on, section 5 or 6 of like 13 or 14 or whatever it is, who knows, right? So it's just going to go upwards from there, and you just go into some truly outside and magical, I guess you could say, musical directions, things you would have never have thought of. It takes a true sort of visionary to be able to even consider some of these approaches, right? So that's why I put this on here. If you're looking for like the ultimate sort of, expose where you want to just sit there, it's like watching a scientific dissertation, if you will, and trying to keep up with these people that, you have to be incredibly skilled at math or whatnot because you're just interested in black holes or whatever it is. But then they start spewing out all of this scientific jargon, and you're just like, I have no idea what they said there, but you just kind of stick with it. That's kind of like the John McLaughlin video. You start off slow. You're like, okay, I'm with you. Episode 1. Episode 2, you're like, okay, you're starting to lose me. And then by episode 3, you're like, okay, he's gone. All right. So it's something, again, you can come back to time and time again. I actually saw a copy of this for sale on eBay for $1,000. I was just like, wow, what? It's for free on YouTube right now, but $1,000. That's insane. So let's see. Last on the list here, of course, it has to be my mentor, of course, Frank Gambale. There's 3 here: the Monster Licks one and Speed Picking. Then there's Modes No More Mystery, and another one called Chops Builder. Now you can't get these ones on the internet, of course, because they came out under Warner Music Group. I think you're seeing a pattern evolve here, right? Essentially REH, which is a defunct sort of video company that's probably owned by someone or whatever it is, but they don't care if these videos go out to the internet, so that's why you can watch them on YouTube for free and stuff like that. But Warner Music Group, yeah, of course that's not going to be there. But all 3 of these videos are worth owning. Now, Frank has a new one, Chops Builder 2, off his own website. So if you're interested in the updated version, plus he has other courses there. They're expensive, I'm not going to lie, but he is without a doubt one of the best music educators in the game right now. And you will not get a more thorough music education from a very straightforward perspective. There's not a whole lot of, you know, wrap it up in the BS and stuff like that. He just kind of shows you the basics and shows you how you can manipulate the basics in a lot of different ways to come up with some really impressive results. Okay, so if you're interested in sort of like more in-depth courses that are going to take you, you know, all the way to the top kind of deal, with hitting the upper echelon of playing the instruments, then Frank Gambale is basically a no-brainer. But if you're more like chill out, I just want the simple stuff, you can watch these three for sure. Chops Builder is essentially an amalgamation, if you will, of the Vinnie Moore video and Rock Discipline by Petrucci, and essentially it's on the ground, play this stuff. I'm not even going to lie. It is incredibly challenging in areas. There are certain runs with the pentatonic ones, which I still can't even do. That's how hard they are. So they are incredibly challenging, but really useful. Okay, it's the ultimate video. He covers everything, all the modes for the major modes, for the melodic minor, for the harmonic minor. He goes over sweeps. He goes over a ton of information there. The Modes No More Mystery one basically unlocks how to get modal sounds. A lot of people just play in a diatonic key and they're like, well, you know, it sounds cool and everything, but I'm not getting that modal feel. How do you do that? There's the video that you should be watching. And I think there's an updated version of that one too, so you might want to check that out. And of course, the last but definitely not least is the Monster Licks and Speed Picking one. This one actually has a very famous lick at the end. The lick that slurped LA, that's just Frank basically obliterating the fretboard. You're just like, not even going to try. No, I did see Rick Graham do it. I was like, yeah, still no. So, I mean, keep that in mind, but this is where the Gambale arpeggios come from. You have sweeping pentatonic scales. You have a lot of information here to basically jump on board with just owning the video, so that you have the booklet in and of itself, which I have all the booklets that sit up here actually, because I'm constantly referring to them. I actually have Frank's signed books too, which are pretty good, but the videos are far more useful, right? The books are better if you want to understand his theoretical approach to music. But having said that, these videos are among the best that you can get on the internet when it comes to learning new things about the guitar that are going to essentially shake up your playing enough to give you the wings necessary to actually transcend from being a pretty decent musician to being a shred monster. And that's really what it comes down to. A lot of times we get tunnel vision. Like if you watch the Vinnie Moore stuff, there's a lot of alternate picking in there. So one would be led to believe you're going to end up doing like tons and tons and tons of alternate picking. And it's true, but once you do that, you get very samey sounding, right? And it just loses its impact, which is why you need to throw little bits of like the Greg Howe stuff in. So you're tapping now and doing more like string skipping or, you know, legato runs. And then you're going to throw a bit of the John Petrucci in there with some sort of interval run, right? And then maybe, you know, really turn on the gas and basically burn everyone with McLaughlin crazy melodic minor stuff. And then finally, round it out with some juicy sort of shred fusion, Frank Gambale style. You know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of all these guys. Oh, here's a Van Halen lick, and I'm going to follow it up with a little bit of Randy Rhoads and stuff. And then there's ways of emulating the guitar players that you love without actually ripping off those famous licks and just transcribing them to another key. Obviously, it doesn't matter if you transcribe it to a different key. People will just hear it and be like, oh yeah, I've heard that one before. Right? So you can't do it anymore. Right? So there's my top 10 videos and other sort of like teaching resources. Obviously start with the videos because they're free. And believe you me, just with that right there, you have about 5 years worth of instruction. You could spend easily 6 months on each one of these videos, just working through about half a dozen of the exercises And that would instantly improve your playing massively over the span of a year or two. And then the John McLaughlin one, there's no way you're going to internalize that in under like 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's just a massive undertaking to even begin to understand the later stuff. And maybe you're not into it, so you can watch and be like, yeah, that's cool, and just not pay attention to it. But again, listen to what they have to say. And if you really want to go like full shred lord, like, you know, Speed Demon from Howe kind of deal, there's the Shawn Lane stuff, which is why that's in there. That's the ultimate, that's the pinnacle of shred. There will never be another guitar player that I can hear that was as fast and creative and utterly devastating in that manner. Like sometimes you're just like, what? It's not like a Rusty Cooley where you're like, yeah, damn. Shredlord or Jason Richardson's another one. It's like that, but with no boundaries anymore. There is no sort of, oh, I worked on this for a couple weeks. It's just pick up the guitar and just play this absolutely jaw-dropping shred lick. And you're just like, okay, wow, okay, just do it on command. And that's kind of the thing, right? So you can sort of pick and choose which ones you want to sort of hit on, but this is going to cover essentially all of the big topics, if you will, with respect to, you know, teaching materials. And then if you're really interested in a specific aspect of what's on the video, that's when I would start going to a place like TrueFire at JTC, or pick your favorite sort of guitar player or whatever it is that offers a course that does this, you know, an Andy James or whoever it is, doesn't matter, and look for more specific information and sort of exercises and etudes that'll help you sort of get more skill in this one particular area kind of deal, you know? So if you're looking to do more sort of fusion-y melodic minor stuff, that's Tom Quayle territory. If you're looking for like the ultra technical shred with, you know, very modern guitar stylings, that's like a Rick Graham kind of situation. If you're looking to do, you know, just a standard learning process with the chords and some pretty straightforward music stuff, that's definitely TrueFire territory. And of course, JTC has a ton of courses on basically everything you could want, but in my opinion, they're more modern players really sort of take the cake in terms of putting out videos that have an insane amount of information on them that can be useful for years and years to come. And that's really what you're looking for, not something that you're going to get a 2-week fix, something that you'd be forced to work on for a year or 2 or 3. You might watch it once and stuff like that, but it teaches you something, and then you're constantly working on like implementing whatever that technique or idea is into your guitar playing until you could do it as fast as they can, if you could ever do it that fast. Right, so that should pretty much wrap it up for this video. I appreciate every single one of you. Next, I was going to do it today, but I've got something else on the go, so I have to do it tomorrow. No big deal. I'll upload those 2 tracks for New Year's Day, of course. Why not? The backing tracks and stuff like that. And then, of course, you can watch these videos and then use those custom backing tracks to essentially test your skill level and be like, can I actually implement an idea like this in a song context? And there it is. You can either do it when it's slower, or you can go super shred master and jump into the fast stuff and be like, yeah, awesome. And if you can't, well, at least you know, and so you can keep working on it. But there it is, my list of the top 10 video instructional information guitar players of all time. There it is, my clickbaity title too. We'll see you in the next one.